All right. So, my name is Jeffrey, if you don't know me, and I've been living in this way for the past 3 years now, and it's been wonderful, and it's honestly changed my life in very many ways, and it's been great to always be able to come back to it at the beginning of each kind of like school year cycle and relearn or reteach or be reminded of some of the things. I was reminded of some things yesterday and kind of felt kind of convicted this morning when I was on my phone and not stewarding my time and technology very well. um, so yeah, like Alyssa said, you're not always going to be 100% perfect in all of them, and that's part of living together. And if you notice, the first three are kind of like very with like Jesus and God, like grace and the cross and word and prayer, and that's diving in with God. And these last now five are more like community, and I think it's perfect that reconciliation is the first one of that. It's also one that a lot of people don't like to talk about, so that's why I'm up here talking about it, because no one else wants to. Um, and I love it. So if you want to pull this out, I like that we've been reading the verses together. So in the centerfold, on the bottom half of the left side, it's the way of reconciliation. So let's read this together from 2 Corinthians. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. All this is from God, who through Christ reconciled us to himself and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. That is, in Christ, God was reconciling the world to himself, not counting their trespasses against them, and entrusting to us the message of reconciliation. So, if you notice, this is our longest verse of all of the ways, and I think it's also, again, very fitting because there's so much to reconciliation. And before I get into what I want to talk about, I just want to read our community way to you guys, and you can read along with me, but you don't have to read it out loud. Our reconciliation with one another is a witness to our own reconciliation with God and to the unity that Trinity shares. We commit ourselves to the following: practicing true confession and apology to one another, proclaiming free absolution to one another, and sharing and working for the peace of God in our community. So all those three things are something that's very convicting for me and something that I've been trying to live in even before I started coming to Trinity and living in this way. And I best learn through two things: stories and activities. So we're going to do both of those. I'm going to tell you a story, and then we're going to do an activity. So my story about reconciliation is one I've told before. So if you've heard this, I'm sorry, but it's a good story. So I have a really good friend I met in college. His name is Gage Thalman. If you don't know him, he used to be an intern here and worked here. Again, if you haven't met him, you'll meet him in a video later. A little sneak peek. And Gage and I met in college at Concordia University in St. Paul, Minnesota. And freshman year, like a lot of people, you just meet different people willy-nilly, you hang out, you start doing different things. And Gage was someone who started going to our men's Bible study that was started by our good friend Sam White, and I started going, and our good friend Sam White likes to just smash two people together and say, hey, you might be friends, and then go away. And that's what he did to us, and it was both great and bad at times. And so we hung out a lot. We did a lot of different things. Gage would come see the shows I was in. I would try to go to as many sports games that he wanted to go to. He loved going to the volleyball games. And then sophomore year, we both applied to be RAs. I didn't get the position, he did, but it worked out because he struggled in the position, and so my room came a place for him to come, like, get away. And that was like our first time kind of like, quote unquote, like being closer together than just being friends and hanging out. And like sometimes he'd stay the night because it was just easier to stay in our dorm than have to go back to the dorm that he was in charge of. So yeah. Anyway, the next year, junior year, we decided to live together. And if you've ever lived with someone that you haven't lived with before, you learn a lot more things about them. And so this is when Gage and I started like kind of struggling in our friendship. We still hung out, we still did all these different things, but if something kind of was like bugging one of us or went wrong, we would kind of clam up. We would still be like friendly, but like maybe we wouldn't talk to each other for like a week or two, or kind of like ignore each other a little bit. Like I spent a lot of my time hanging out in our living space in our dorm because I wanted to be around our roommates, and that's where he kept his Xbox, so he would be there. So we'd sit next to each other, but wouldn't say anything or whatever, different things like that. And eventually, one of us would be like, "Dude, what's up? Like, what's going on?" And it would just be like a, like kind of that exploding out, and we would just kind of like let everything out, and things would be worse than they would have if we had said anything to begin with. And so we kind of went into this cycle of this kept happening, and there was never true, like, what it says here, true confession and true apology. It was just a bit of like, hey, you did this thing, I really didn't like it, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry I did that thing, I'll try to be better, and be like, okay, it's fine, whatever. And then we'd move on, we'd have fun, we'd be friends again, and then things would happen. And so after that year of living together, we decided we'd live together again. and you guessed it, the same thing happened. Kind of this cycle of like going through not being friends, but being friends, or then being really good friends, and then one little thing would happen, and then that would turn into 5 little things that had happened, and then a month goes by, and then one of us finally says something, and it's like, why didn't you tell me to, wipe down the toilet 2 months ago? Like, I would have done it. It's not a big deal. So like simple things like that, but they would grow. And then Gage moved out here. And that was probably one of the best things for our relationship. One, because, yeah, we moved away from each other. We had distance. But 2, he started living in this rule of life. And I feel like I kind of started to live in that a little bit whenever we would talk. And Gage and I, our friendship grew exponentially in that 1 year we lived apart, and then the 4 years we spent together in college, because we consistently made time to talk to each other, to share how we were feeling. And there was the fact of not living together to like not grow anything. It was just like, hey, this is happening or whatever. And we would talk, and we really felt like we got closer to each other then. And then I decided to move out here, and we were like, how's this gonna go? But that's the beauty of it. Gage had learned these ways, this way of reconciliation. I had learned it through him, and then learned it when I got here too. And none of those problems happened again. I'm not necessarily saying that once you start living in this way, it's all gonna go away. But I really noticed that like when something was going on, one of us said something almost immediately. We wouldn't let it fester. We'd say, hey, let's go for a walk and talk it out. Or like, hey, hey, this kind of happened. Like, how can we work this out or whatever. Different little things that didn't fester anymore. And that's like, I think, the beauty of what true confession and true apology is. It's, hey, I'm sorry I did this. Will you forgive me? And then it's a response of, yes, I will forgive you. It's not, oh, it's okay, or it's fine. That's like, no worries, don't worry about it. That's a very common response you see nowadays. Even like, like bumping into someone in the grocery store with your shopping cart, and you say, oh, sorry, and they're like, oh, don't worry about it, it's fine, and they're limping away. Like, there's like great power with the words, I forgive you. And even, as many of you know, I got married this last summer, and we spent 6 months in marriage counseling, Christy and I did, and one of the lessons was about reconciliation. Out of like 6, one of them was. And like, if that's so important in a marriage, it should be just as important in a community, in every relationship you have, whether you know the person or not. Because, you could bump into someone in the shopping mart, and you say, I'm sorry, and then now they're mad at you for no reason, and then, or you bump in, sorry, I mess it up. They bump into you, and they're mad, and you're not, or whatever, and now one of your days is ruined because there was not that absolution there. So, sorry, I kind of lost myself there. the main reason I tell this story is to have that reminder of not letting things fester. When little things fester in a community, they grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And now you have these kind of like clashing of heads or personalities when it could be avoided earlier on. And in a community, we are choosing to live together. We're choosing to say, hey, we're going to do this thing. And so the best part about it is, even though sometimes when you apologize to someone or forgive someone, it's not received, in this community or living in the common way, there's that expectation that it will be and that you will figure a way to work it out. And if you can't work it out, just the two of you, I find Matthew 18 has some great verses about it. It says, if your brother sins against you, go tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens, you have gained your brother. But if he does not listen, take one or two others along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Truly I say to you, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. And it's such a good example that Jesus gives us of figure it out between you two. Work together and apologize and have true confession and forgiveness with each other. So now that I've told you the story and you've heard, I should say I'm sorry, the other should say I forgive you, I figured we'd try it out a little bit. So on your tables is, it'll be a fun little exercise. If anyone gets mad, you can come to me first. On your tables, there's half sheets of blank paper. I want everyone to grab one and then pair with a partner. And if you can't do full partners, maybe do a little trio. And then once you have found a partner, one of you label your paper 1 and one of you label your paper 2. So to decide that between you, who's going to be 1 or 2, it doesn't really matter. Just makes it easier for me to talk. All right, cool. This is going to be a fun, kind of silly exercise, but I think it's going to be fun and you might learn something from it. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to draw whatever you want on your paper. You can draw a little smiley face, you can draw a stick figure, you can draw a stick figure riding a stick figure horse, charging against 100 angry faces. I don't know, whatever you want to draw it. I'll give you 30 seconds and go. It doesn't have to be the most amazing masterpiece in the world. Just draw whatever you want. All right, your time's up. Don't worry if it's unfinished or whatever. It's okay. I just wanted you to take your piece of paper to your own a little bit. You drew something. You made something on this piece of paper. Now share it with your partner and tell them what you drew. All right, now that you've done that, make sure you're holding the paper that you drew, the paper that you started with. Make sure you have your own paper. So if you are number 1 in your pair, hold your paper up. If you're number 1 in your pair, hold your paper up. Okay, number 2, take that paper and ruin it. Do whatever you want. Ruin it. Scribble it out, rip it up, crumple it all up, do whatever you want. Man, I'm so sorry, number 2s. I'm so sorry that happened to you. So many of you might be thinking, oh man, that really sucks. That hurts. And many of you might be saying, it's a 30-second drawing, I don't really care. It's whatever. But what I want you to do is, I want number 1 to say, hey, I'm sorry for ruining your paper. And I want number 2 to say, oh, sorry, the other way. Number 2 to say, hey, I'm sorry for ruining your paper. And number 1 to say, I forgive you. So go ahead and do that. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. All right, now sorry, whose paper got destroyed? Number 1 got paper? Okay, number 1s, you now get to, not maliciously, not out of revenge, but just so everyone gets a chance at apologizing and forgiving, you get to ruin your other partner's paper. All right, and now we're going to do that same thing. We're going to say, hey, I'm sorry for what I did to your paper. Will you forgive me? And response with, yes, I will forgive you. Yeah. Yeah, these are all going to go up in the gallery after this. All right. And if you were in a trio, you can quickly also do the same thing for everyone who didn't get to do it in the trio. I'll give you a little bit more time. So I know this was a little silly kind of experiment, but I love to see the smiles and the laughing on your faces because that's a little bit of what reconciliation becomes. It becomes joy. It becomes a kindred between you and the person that wronged you, or vice versa. And forgiveness doesn't necessarily erase the past because your picture is ruined, but it does pave a way for a new way forward. And forgiveness doesn't always erase consequences of what happened, but it does start to erase shame. And this is the beauty of reconciliation when forgiveness is fully received through apology and forgiveness. And a lot of people can take this the wrong way too. You know, when you have kids or kiddos and you say, hey, you need to go apologize for what happened. And they go, I'm sorry that you're so annoying. And that's not true apology. And that's what our counter formation is about. So if you want to pull out your page again, it says the way of reconciliation is a way of resistance to a culture that gets over it through blame, self-justification, weaponized apology, or outrage. So we're fighting against that with this way of reconciliation. We're being counterformed against this. The world so quickly wants to put blame, so quickly wants to boost themselves and not worry about what they've done. But it is so important to turn to your neighbor and say, hey, I'm truly sorry. Will you forgive me? And say, yes, I will forgive you. And you can begin to pave a new way forward and work out how you can continue to live together in community. So the way of reconciliation, I'll do the hand motion for you. This one is one of the few that's kind of confusing with the symbols, but it's this. So you beat your chest, and I think it comes from a confession of like, by my own grievous self, my own fault. And sometimes even during confession, you'll see Nathan do this. And so I'd start doing it too. It's a good reminder of like, this is like, it is my fault, I'm sorry, will you forgive me? So, thank you.